Hello everybody, welcome back. It is week 21 of my competition prep series, and today I have a lot of stuff to go over with you. Not only will I talk you through all of my data, my weigh-ins, my training, everything to do with my tracking, but I'll also be jumping over to YouTube as always to respond to your questions that you've asked in the comments section, and then we'll pop over and take a look at our upcoming challenges, our team events, all of our free services, products, everything that you can possibly get your hands on, but we'll come to that towards the end of the video. But look, this week I honestly really struggled. I want to talk through some of the things that I found challenging this week. I think for all of us, there are going to be periods, when we have, a specific goal, and it doesn't just have to be a goal, relating to our fitness. It can be a goal relating to anything. When you are striving to, achieve something and things don't necessarily work out the way that you were hoping to, it's really difficult to deal with. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that this week, and also just some of the psychological, negative voices that we'll often hear that are really pulling us away from continuing to pursue a goal, or to have faith, or to have courage, or be motivated, or have ambition to keep going when it gets tough. So those are definitely some things that I was grappling with this week. But before I talk about that, I want to have a look at my data. So this past week, I did lose 1.22 pounds on average from the previous week. So last week's average, I weighed in at 136.9. Now I did only have one data point for last week. I chose to have a free week of no tracking, and that extended to weighing myself as well. I just needed some mental, freedom, a bit of space to kind of focus back on my work and everything that's going on here in our team. So that was wonderful. So is this really a true reflection of my actual weight drop? Probably not, but it is what I've got. So I came down by 1.22. So this week I weighed in at 135.7. And that's also under the influence of 4 days with my menstrual cycle. And it was interesting. I finally got it, and it was so short. I was not really sure when it was going to come back. I had a feeling after having a full week of eating more calories and just having a bit more food flexibility, I suspected that it might return. Historically, if I've ever been on the brink of losing my cycle during an intense cut for a competition, it is usually around the time when I've had like a high day, a planned day of calorie cycling where my calories are a lot higher. It might be the day after or two where I get my cycle again, if it was on the brink of disappearing altogether. So it really just shows when there is a surplus of energy, or your body is getting an adequate or a sufficient amount of protein and energy through calories from carbohydrates and fats, that your body tends to work really well. So I was actually very happy that it returned so quickly. It was literally days after my competition. So that definitely left me feeling really confident about the process that I've undertaken. I've done it in a very healthy way. My body is still responding very normally, which is great. Can't say the same for the hunger. Some of the other symptoms that come along with dieting, those are still rife, and definitely letting me know that it's time to take a breather, but the show must go on. I still have a couple more weeks until my next show, and then hopefully I can take a little breather, through the months of July to the end of the year when the Olympia is, provided that I get there. Like, who knows? I may not yet. So weight has come down, definitely. However, it was interesting to just observe the changes visibly in the mirror. So whilst I could see my weight was trending in a downwards direction, I definitely had some uneasiness because I couldn't really see it in the mirror. And I'm sure you guys, if you have ever undertaken some intentional fat loss, and again, different motivations, we all do things for different reasons. But for me, I definitely felt a little bit anxious about that because it is so close to my competition. In fact, if we pop over to my client tracking sheet, I'm pretty sure I have a countdown of days going on here. So from today, I'm recording this on Wednesday. I'm a couple of days late due to the long weekend. I needed a hot minute to take a breather from work. I am exactly 23 days out, and I am very, very nervous. I have never been, or at least in this prep, I have not really ever had that scared feeling like I'm not going to be ready. I've definitely probably ruminated quite a bit on my free week, which I know is not serving me in any positive way. And I have to keep reminding myself, just let it go, Holly, let it go. Like, you needed that time off. It was important to, replenish, recover, repair. It was also important for you to shift focus and get back on, with work obligations. Not that I have stopped work, that's for sure, but I definitely stopped kind of pushing in the last week, to allow myself more time to pack my suitcase and get everything, ready together for the show and make sure that I've got all my appointments set up for our competition. So, there were probably a half dozen hours, at least in that last week, where I wasn't doing things in the business directly. And that's a lot of hours of work. So I know that I needed to take a little bit of a breather that week, but just that that very transitional change in your body composition in response to eating more carbohydrate, and then the effect that has on your total body water and how that then looks in the mirror. It was a big quick shift. And I know to expect that. I knew it from the beginning, but it doesn't make this process kind of returning into caloric restriction and then not seeing those visible changes quickly. It doesn't make it any easier. I still really have to remind myself and be very cognizant of what I am allowing to be thought up here. What is that belief? Am I making negative comments more than I am positive ones? And how can I kind of provide a little bit of pushback to move my thoughts back in a more optimistic direction? Otherwise, I could be stuck down at the bottom of the dungeon, and it's not a nice place to be. So definitely had some dark thoughts this week about, wanting to quit. Definitely. I'm not going to be ready. That was another thought that I've had many times. Should I just stop my focus on competing altogether? Like, why am I doing this? There's definitely those thoughts have popped up, particularly when I look at all of the things that I'm so excited about in our company that I really want to focus on and commit my time to. But, I've already spent and ventured 6 months into the year preparing. So I'm like, just finish the goal. So, I had to talk myself out a lot of those kind of negative thoughts this week. And it's definitely been an overwhelming week from a psychological standpoint. So I'm back in the game and I'm just really trying to focus on, okay, so we're not seeing what you want to see in the mirror today, but here are several things that you didn't do very well last week. And a couple of examples are, let me go over to my data. So just tracking on the day that I ate my food. So I guess I can get a show of hands. Maybe you guys can comment in the description. Have you ever set up the week to, track your macros, and you have had so many things on that it's been really difficult to even find time to pick up your phone and then enter in the quantity of food, whether it's an estimate or a weighed amount, doesn't matter. Just finding the time to pick your phone up and track your macros. Yes, well, that was me all of last week. I did not track a single macro until Friday evening in bed, and it was about 12 o'clock. And as I climbed into bed, I'm like, I know I've got a busy weekend. I had filming all weekend scheduled. We were going to be up at the butt crack of dawn. I needed to review some of my content, make sure that I had everything set up and ready to go for filming day. So I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this if I don't do it now. So I had to sit down and I pulled out. I have so many notepads because with all my client check-ins, I am taking notes throughout the entire video. So I had like 6 notepads floating around with like Thursday written at the top and like 50 grams of cheese, 100 grams of this, whatever it was, just estimates. I couldn't put anything on the scale. I was so busy. I had so many new clients last week to write and prepare new programs for, and then lots of, additional administrative tasks for the company that, something had to give. So it is fortunate that I was able to kind of backload that work to the weekend. Obviously, I was able to catch a minute, but I had to be so intentional about it. Like I was hopping into bed and I was talking myself out of it. And I'm like, if you don't do it now, when do you think you're going to get to do it? So I managed to get through, like, I'd say 4 days of the week. I still hadn't managed to track that present day, the Friday, where I was doing the tracking. And I remember I was halfway through a recipe and I think I fell asleep. I woke up in the morning and I had a pen somewhere around my ears. And I went to kind of check back what I was doing. And I was so frustrated because I know I'd gotten through like 8 ingredients of this recipe that I had made. It was a delicious red curry from, I guess it was similar to the ones in my books actually, but a little tweak here and there. So I got most of the way through. I recall doing it, and then I must have just like dozed off. So the whole thing was gone. I'm like, dang it, it was so frustrating. So again, like just little things like that, like was so irritating because I'm like, oh my God, what a waste of time. Like I fell asleep. So it was just a really busy week. So the mistake that I made last week was unfortunately unavoidable. There was nothing else that I could have done last week, second to not feeding my pets, second to not bathing, or I don't know, not doing my training, which again is a pivotal part. Like there's nothing else on my schedule. I guess maybe I haven't shown you guys my calendar in a while. Let's take a look. This is what it looks like every single week. So the blue is client check-ins. I've got training in here. I've got a few meetings. There's no time dedicated on this schedule right now to even me looking at my inbox, like reading my emails, let alone the film days or any meaningful time where I get to do content writing. So like right now I have one block of time that's 2 hours on a Monday to content writing. And I can tell you now I spend a lot more time doing that. So it somewhere fits on this crazy schedule. So, you know, I had to take a big step back and go, look, it wasn't a great week for my goal of pursuing my, Olympia dreams. But it's also my reality. I have a busy job, and maybe you guys do too. It might not necessarily look like that because of your work schedule. You might have a normal 40-hour week, but you might have 30 hours of obligations to your children. You might have other responsibilities that you do for volunteer work or your church, or I don't know, name anything. But it's just when we are unable to control, like change the circumstances, things that are out of our control, what is the good of reflecting and ruminating on them? Like we know that we can't do anything about it. So, in that moment, I could have just let myself get really angry, which I was temporarily. I can tell you I was so moody last week. But, I would quickly get myself out of that and just recognize that I am one person. I can't possibly do it all. And I am probably setting my expectations a little bit too high. So, my reality was it wasn't a great week for tracking. I don't even know whether these are accurate. I can't be sure that I put down every single thing that I ate during the week. I loosely chicken scratched it on some paper and copied what I could. And you can even see here on Thursday, this particular day that I'm looking at, I've recorded 266 calories because that's what Thursday had on the piece of paper. I'm like, nah, I definitely ate more than that. Like I know I also went and had some food after a busy day of work. So I just didn't write it down anywhere. And I thought about it. I'm like, what is the point of me going back and just taking all that time to scrutinize what I ate, what I didn't eat? Right now, I know that I probably was slightly in excess of what my goals were. It would be very difficult for me to eat under 1,200 calories through mindful eating. That's for sure. It's just a low calorie target. So I just have to let last week go. It wasn't perfect, but I do know that this week I've had to make a very conscious effort that every time I go to the kitchen and I try to make myself a meal, I make sure that before I do anything else, I have to make that a priority. If I want to do a competition which requires and demands that level of focused effort, then that is the behavior that I need to do. Now that's a different set of behaviors, a different set of rules and governing principles for somebody that doesn't have a hard deadline, and for someone that has an open time book. And also, tracking macros isn't necessarily an obligation for everybody. It isn't the only way for people to have success in terms of achieving their outcome. I have had success personally on many different dietary approaches, and do my clients. We usually tend to look at a customized approach to the individual and their lifestyle, their circumstances, and their personal preferences as well. But I know for me to do this properly and to be an Olympia competitive physique, I first got to get a pro card. So that will happen hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I don't know how many shows it's going to take me, but it's not going to happen by estimating. It's not going to happen by me being mindful of my portions, though I could do a good job at that. There is nothing better than allowing myself more flexibility and then implementing flexible dieting, hitting protein, hitting a carb, hitting a fat goal. So that will be and has been one thing, at least just kicking off this new week. Obviously, it's Wednesday already, that I have practiced every day this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Before I put a dang thing in my mouth, I am putting it in my phone to make sure that I do not exceed my targets. Because if I were to just eat intuitively, based on my hunger, which is a normal symptom of dieting, my calories could easily be consumed by the end of breakfast. Let's just say I have a great appetite. I love food. I love feeling nourished and satisfied. It's just not something that you can do quite to that extent when you're competing as an athlete. So that is one big shift for me for this week, is making sure that I put everything into the tracker before I eat it. So I guess moving on from, the mistakes or behaviors that were not serving me very well this past week in light of tracking, let's go and have a look at my individual days. So it looks like I was way under, but I want to go over to my client tracking sheet now and put in something that's probably more realistic for this day. I know I went and had a steak at my favorite restaurant, Steak 954, and a delicious popover with some bread. And I had some ahi tuna as an appetizer. So my guess on that day is that I probably had somewhere around 135 to 140 grams of protein. Again, I'm just guessing, guys, but I've been doing it a while. I hope I'm in the ballpark. I would say I had about 170 grams of carbohydrate that day. I know that I had my own red curry at home, which was served with rice. I know that I had a couple of different carb sauces. I had some Greek yogurt, which is a carb sauce. I had Rice Krispie cornflake things. And then I had the bread at dinner. So I already know that I was at least at 170. And then my fats, I'd have to guess, was probably somewhere around 40. Just because I had quite a bit of butter on my popover, which is like, if you haven't had a popover, please make one or find a restaurant that sells them near you. Holy crap, they're so good. It's like they're an egg. I guess they use a lot of egg. So they're very light, very fluffy. And in the center, it's just like all open. So they expand, they rise, and they maintain this like popover giant shape. Maybe I'll put one on the screen for you, but they are so freaking good. I've made them here at my house. I didn't have the right sized popover tin, which is critical for the success of this recipe, but I use like a muffin tray, so they were just like a smaller, slightly more dense version. But I love bread. Like, bread could be up there with like some of my favorite foods, but bread has to be warm and soft, and I've got to have butter on it, specifically whipped butter with some salt. So call me spoiled. I love bread. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's just demonized a little too much for my personal liking. So anyway, I've put some better macros in here. Let's just see what that does to my overall compliance. Yeah, okay, so it brings me up to 7% above my calorie goal for this week. It doesn't look crazy. It's like 13,865. Like, I look at that, I'm like, oh God, I could normally eat one meal and it would be that many calories when I'm not competing. So yeah, definitely not a high amount of calories, but it is over what I am trying to target to get myself back down to 132 pounds for show day. And I might even need to be a bit leaner. Oh, dare I say it, for my next competition. It's nationals. It's going to be much, much harder, more competitive athletes at this show. So I think I probably need to come in looking very sharp and competitive. And then on the day, once I've scoped out the competition, I can decide what I want to do with my nutrition on show day and the glaze or non-glaze to help me look more shreddy or soften my appearance. So we can do that very easily through food and glaze. So fiber is something that I am honestly disappointed about, but again, I also know the difficulties of last week. It was not my best week with food availability. I was not prepared. I didn't get any prep done, so I'm just eating like the leftover things that I had made from previous weeks that are in my freezer. Didn't really enjoy any of my food. Obviously, compliance was low. I also just did not enjoy any of the foods that I had, but I did not have time to do meal prep. It was just, that's the kind of week that it was. So very disappointing in terms of, the standard I would hold for myself as a physique athlete. But this is also something that I would see pretty typically for most clients. And that's why I have compassion. I'm like, Holly, you can't do it all. You'll do better this week. You'll plan, you'll clear something out. You might have to say no to a few things, take on less clients, not do this meeting so that you can, because that is really, really important for the success of my goal. Protein was also very low. A couple of really crappy days here. I mean, Saturday, wow, that was really bad, 57. So that's well below my protein recommended reference range. My bottom end is probably somewhere around 85 to 90, I think, based on my current lean body mass. So it's low. There's not much I can do about it. It's in the past, but it's just one day. So I'm not going to beat myself up about it. Nothing major is going to happen in one day. That's for sure. It's when that behavior happens consistently. If you were eating, below the recommended protein reference ranges, 4 out of 7 days of the week, every week, then that would have a negative implication on not only your hypertrophy capacity, so how much are you going to grow, how much muscle adaptation are you going to achieve, but in the case of a diet, that would also be having negative implications on my capacity to retain my muscle, even if I am lifting. So it's just one day. I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but it's much, much lower than what I normally do. And you can see I obviously ate more carbohydrate. I can't even remember what I ate last week. Like, it's just a bit of a blur. It was go, go, go. I'm sure I will put up some pictures here of my food choices from the weekend in a moment. And we can see exactly what was 160 grams of carbohydrate that I enjoyed. And I must say, that was also necessary. I don't think if I had the capacity to get out of these four walls and go and be part of the community and I guess be in a new environment and have somebody just prepare a dang meal for me, I don't know, I'd probably be worse off this week, that's for sure. So, there are certain things that are like non-negotiables for me, especially as somebody that works from home. You guys probably are familiar if you too work from home. I tend to get a little stir crazy in the same four walls. So, getting out and just reminding myself that, there's community out here. There are people, I can connect and, feel like I'm part of something bigger. Like, that's really important to me. So yes, I'm glad that I went out and I'm also glad that I ate those calories because it was necessary for my mental health and well-being. And that is something I do not want to compromise by continuing to do competitions. I kind of have made that pact with myself. You have done such a great job at overcoming your disordered eating, your beliefs about yourself, your body image, all of those things. So I'm not going to do things in a way that is going to move me in a negative direction. So far, most of this prep, I'd say I've had a very positive experience. Nothing has felt overly, what's the word I'm looking for? I haven't felt overly deprived. I have been very open about what my food choices have been. Diet's never always perfect, but it doesn't need to be. As you can see, you can achieve a very good physique or a level of leanness and muscularity without having to eat like the epitome of health. I'm not saying that I condone that all the time, but to get into stage lean condition under these circumstances, this has been a very healthy prep for me, that's for sure. Okay, so compliance to protein was low. Calories were high. So I only have but an opportunity to correct my behaviors this week and do a better job. So training came in at, what do we got here? 365 minutes, I guess, in total. And then my calories, I'm not tracking volume at the moment. For whatever reason, I've started a new training program and I think it's still just collecting the minutes. My new program that I'm doing right now, which started on Monday, however, I am tracking my volume. So you'll see that again soon. But last week I was just tracking based on minutes. I didn't have the bandwidth to go and look at all of my volume from my training session. So I just put in the times based on my watch. So my calories still came in reasonable. 2,000 calories for the week. And some of these sessions were not optimal. So let's go with my not optimal training sessions. What happened? Well, I'm going to blame Brett Contreras. If I'm to blame anyone, no, I've got to take my own blame. I put myself in the pathway of the glute lab because I wanted to train my glutes with some new exercises and machinery. So I haven't been out there since he extended the building and knocked out, I guess, the place next door and pinched that building. So lots of new machinery and I absolutely had a wonderful time. My glutes did not. They were toast. I could barely walk for like the first couple of days of this week after doing these new movements, which is just crazy to me. I haven't had that kind of glute pain in a long time. The only other way I would accomplish that level of muscle soreness would be is if I stopped maybe doing hip thrusts or I stopped doing machine seated abductions for, I don't know, let's say 2 months, and then I came back in and did them again, I could accomplish that level of muscle soreness, just due to not having that kind of stimulus repeated week after week. But since I have not stopped training my glutes, and these machines just do it in a different way, oh my God. So it was really good, but I end up just chatting and talking science, which is good. So it's not a bad thing. It's always fun to go in and talk shop with Brett, and we've already come up with a couple of new study designs for glute hypertrophy. Cannot wait. But I do not have the time at the moment to do that. It wasn't on my schedule. I definitely did not intend on staying for 4 hours at the gym, which is exactly how long we were there. We talked for 2 hours before we even got started training, just to put things into perspective. So though I thoroughly enjoyed it, I also had to race home and get all of my hair extensions taken out. So all the blonde pieces that I've told you guys about, I had taken out. So now I just have my brown, which is mostly natural, at least until here. So yeah, I was like, oh shit, my whole day's gone. I hadn't done any steps at this point. So in the morning I got up and did housework and I was also, again, preparing my house for showings as always, and doing some writing. So yeah, I didn't get time to do my steps. The day caught up with me. Then 4 hours has passed at the gym, and I'm like, oh my God, I meant to do HIIT cardio today. So you can see here on Saturday, there is no spin, nothing. I was meant to do 30 minutes on that day as well. So it was like everything just went to shit. So it turns out I do not have any time to spare outside of what's on my schedule at the moment. But it was really good. I'm going to continue to go and train probably once or twice a week just to make sure that I can hit my muscles differently to grow my upper glutes, because the machines at my gym don't necessarily allow me to target that very effectively, or at least not without loading my lower back. So training came in at a good amount of calories for the week, but still not quite as high as where I'd like them to be. And I think part of that is just due to kind of getting out of rhythm, stopping, talking, pausing. And then also this week, every single training session in the gym, I was so unfocused. I would be checking emails. I've got 15 tasks being thrown at me while I'm trying to work out. Can you review this video? Do you like this copy? How do you like that landing page? Can you find that image? We need this one specifically. You know the one where it is in that folder. And I'm like, okay. So I'm just my training was horrible. Just very distracted. And when you are distracted from your training and you're not in it, I just don't feel like my mind muscle connection is there. And I also don't see the same kind of caloric expenditure either. I'm stopping, starting, slowing down, and I don't enjoy my training either. So last week just felt crappy all the way around, because I couldn't be there and do the thing that I love doing. So that was a little bit frustrating. So hopefully this week it will feel a little bit better. So my cardio, I came in at 528 calories. Now you can see my goal was, let's go over and have a look at my weekly adjustments. I was supposed to hit 900 calories. So on Saturday, the day that I enjoyed chatting for 4 hours instead and planning future research, I missed my cardio session, and I did not have the capacity to do it later because I also had other writing tasks to do and audio that I had to record that evening. So didn't get done. So again, just disappointed, but I made choices on that day, and I will make different choices this week, given I only have 23 days to go. Coming over to my walking, you can see here I expended around 2,600 calories estimated through my 60-minute walks. I made sure I did get those done every single week, and thank the Lord, I don't know what happened on Monday, but it looks like I got 18,000 steps. I don't know what I did on Monday. I've got no idea why my steps are so high that day, but they're high. So maybe I cleaned the house. I think that, you know what it was? So I was having somebody come and take pictures and then a showing on Tuesday morning. So we replaced, I think I told you I'd replaced several things in this house, did some minor renovations. So I think I was vacuuming and cleaning and doing things at 11:30 at night. So that's where those steps came in. So that was kind of convenient because it got me caught up for the week. And oh my God, I actually didn't know this. I hit my steps. Actually hit 12,000 steps for the week, which is very surprising to me. So I hit my calorie goal. My calorie goal was 5,157. My calorie came in at 5,157, and my goal was to get over 5,100. Previously, my goals had been to get up to 5,400. So again, had I done my extra cardio this week that I missed, I would have had a more successful week in the realm of exercise. So what else can I talk to you about? I always look at this data and I'm like, I feel like it's the same thing for me every week. And because I work with clients every week, I'm like, yeah, no, it just all looks the same. But if you've got questions about it, please ask. So I am still about 2 pounds away from where I need to be, and I have 23 days. So that is a little bit terrifying. So let's do some math real quick. I just want to show you. So 2 pounds divided by 2.2046. So I've got to lose about a kilo, probably a kilo, just a little bit over if I'm being honest with myself, between now and my show. So let's do some math here. I'm going to times that by 1,000 to get it into grams, because I want to equate a calorie value or assign a calorie value to the number of grams I've got to lose. And the calorie value that I'm assigning per gram of weight loss isn't going to be 9, because I'm not going to lose all fat. That would be wishful thinking. I am probably going to lose a combination of fat and lean tissue. It's just part and parcel with dieting when you are already at a lean body composition. So we're talking 907 grams. I'm going to put my calories at probably 5.9 per gram of weight loss. So I need to burn 5,332 calories to lose that 2 pounds of weight loss. I'm going to do it, divide that over. Okay, so if I was to do that over 7 days, I would need to create a 764 calorie deficit. And thank the Lord we are not doing that. Thank God I've got more than 2 weeks to do this. So let's go back to that 5, we'll times it by 7 again. So I've got 5,352 calories that I need to create a deficit for. And I'm probably going to do that over 14 days. So I need to bring my calories down basically by 382 below my known maintenance. So I already know what my maintenance is. We talked about it last week. So this is why my calories are currently sitting at about 1,270. If we go 1,277, which is I think what they are, this is what my maintenance calories are, 1,659 roughly, based on where all of my metrics were when I went on stage. It's very low. I'm also very inactive, and I don't do diddly squat, and I probably have some negative adaptations because of the diet. So, and I probably also, I would say I have some negative adaptations because in my off season, I'm able to still be pretty sedentary, but my calories are much closer to 2,000. So that makes sense to me. So I hope that little bit of math helps you there. So where are we going this week, guys? Well, I am not touching my calories any lower than they already are. This is already tough for me. So 1,277 will still stay the fat loss goal target. I just need to be on the money with my training, and I need to make sure that I am going to show up and actually do the work to hit those numbers this week. So I'm proud of myself already this week at Wednesday. I have successfully done this, and I have successfully done my cardio and my training, at least that I had planned so far at this point by Wednesday. So hopefully the week continues to go that way. So 120 grams of carbohydrate, 33 grams of fat, 125 protein. I will chop and change my carb and fat ratios around based on what I'm feeling like eating on the given day. Again, we know that there is no right or wrong when it comes to macronutrient breakdown or distribution for fat loss. What is really important is calories and protein. So that's my nutrition for this week. I've already made a concerted effort to reintroduce my high fiber foods. I basically had a week last week where I ran out of veggies and was just eating like a wrap or meat, protein or dairy. Like my food choice and diversity last week was so bad. I'm ashamed to be somebody that's so knowledgeable of food and food diversity and what a holistic balanced diet looks like, to then look at what I actually ate. So that's my lifestyle. So this week will be much better in terms of dietary fiber. I have the colors of the rainbow. I have been really enjoying my foods. I had a delicious homemade Caesar salad today for lunch with, I guess, some chicken as well, and boiled eggs. I used the Jihu's, magical burger sauce. It's about 80 calories for a serving. I only had half of a serving. Serving was 30 grams, so I had about 15 mil with some light mayonnaise, Parmesan cheese, the low-fat kind, little bacon pieces, like 10 grams or so, bunch of chicken, and what else? Boiled eggs. So that was great. Shook it up in my big bag and was having a great old time. It was actually really good. I had one at a restaurant the other week. It was like a Cobb salad, and it was so refreshing that I thought I need to make this at home. Okay, resistance training volume. So I would really like personally to see 2,200 again. I'm going to make that my target this week, and I will do it. I've only got 4 sessions at the moment with my new program. If I need to do a 5th session, oh, by the way, I actually did an extra session last week. I forgot to talk about this. So you can see here I did 5 sessions to get me to 2,000 calories. One of these sessions I was recording, and when I got to the gym and pulled up my program, and I'm like, oh, this is a 4-day-a-week program. That's my new one. I just wrote it, so it's new. So I'm like, well, guys, we're not going to be doing the program from my new Miss Bikini Olympia Part 4 because it doesn't exist. So we'll just go through and do some demonstrations from the movements that I had. So I actually did a 5th session to get me to my calorie goal this past week. So that just goes to show you how distracted, how unengaged, and how unfocused I was in those workouts to burn such few calories. So 4 resistance training sessions this week, and I will be getting to 2,200 calories. I am so focused. I feel very excited about this week. I will be getting to my 90 minutes of cardio. I have now learned my lesson. Unless I put Brett on my schedule for 4 hours and it fits with everything else that I have to do, will I then engage in a 4-hour long conversation? But this week I've learned better. So I will do my 90 minutes of HIIT cardio. Steps are still going to be 12,000. If I get extra, I only see that as a benefit at this point. So, I'll be doing my very best to at least meet my targets. And if I can exceed it, great. I'd rather come in, be early than be cutting it to the very last minute. And then my calorie goal this week, I need to ramp it back up to 5,400. Otherwise, I'm not going to be lean enough for this competition. So that is everything in terms of my nutrition. I want to jump over now to YouTube and respond to some of the questions that you guys had asked in last week's video. And I will just point out a couple of people had noticed that when they were looking for the timestamps down here, they were not lining up with what I was saying. So I've actually just let my marketing team know that when they, I guess, do whatever they do to get those timestamps, that they're not pulling correctly. So hopefully this week, as you are watching this video, those timestamps, if you're somebody that's looking at those, will be accurate. Let me show less. There we go. All right, so let's go through the questions. Okay, so I love how informative these videos are. I so very much appreciate it. My question is, I'm 5'10", female. I have lost 15 pounds over the last 10 months. I'm now down to 155 pounds with a few weeks or so long diet breaks in the mix of all that time as well. I also train very consistently for the past 2.5 years. I've had good base of muscle. I'm still holding quite a bit of body fat in my legs and my glutes. I'm wanting to continue my fat loss till I get that off, but I've gotten down to 1,500, 1,600 calories and some difficulty with compliance. I'm wondering if this is too low or a fine place to dig into that last bit of fat loss. What is best? What is your desired lowest threshold and recommendations for when you've hit that in terms of timeframes? Any additional advice would be welcomed. Thank you so much. So, interesting question. I think I've talked similarly to other questions in the past. So my personal calorie cutoffs, and again, this is based on when we start to see protein and energy deficiencies and micronutrient deficiencies in the literature. So I tend not to take anybody below, say, 22.5 calories per kilogram of lean body mass. Now, I don't know what your body fat percentage is at this point, so I'm just going to make an estimate and tell you, in the ballpark so that we've got something to talk about today. So you are about 70 kgs at 155 pounds. If you were 25% body fat, that means you've got 70 kgs of fat mass and you've got about 52 kgs of lean body mass. So at 22.5 calories per kilogram of body weight, let's do that. Times 52. This would be your calorie floor. So if you were dieting with me, if you came and signed up to work with me, this would probably be the number that I would say we are not going below that number, because then I would be compromising your health. You would not be able to get a sufficient amount of micronutrients and protein or energy. Now, there are caveats to that, and we also have to take into consideration somebody's activity levels. So, we can have somebody that has the same, body composition as you, but maybe they have a really active job. So again, my numbers move around a little bit. I have a great reference table in one of my former books that explains that. But in your particular situation here, right now, 1,550 calories for you, which is the number you've said you've gotten down to, and you said it's starting to feel very uncomfortable, that would put you just below normal. So my normal kind of cutoffs are about 30 calories per kilogram of lean body mass up to about 40. So if your numbers fall within that range, that's kind of normal if you're a moderately active individual. And again, those numbers shift a little bit as we move into like somebody that's very active. And then we also see those numbers shift a little bit down if you are very sedentary. I am that person. Outside of the intentional exercise I do, I would be a sedentary individual. So 1550 isn't terrible. If someone came to me and they said that they'd never dieted before and their calories were at 29 calories per kilogram of lean body mass, so it's like a fraction below normal, I would probably say to them, you could. We've got some flexibility where I still feel ethically comfortable doing this, but that doesn't mean that your subjective symptoms of dieting aren't going to be very unpleasant. And everybody has a different tolerance to those symptoms, and it is often just defined by our circumstance. Are you a busy entrepreneur and you have no time for anything? Are you a busy parent and business person and you have no time for anything? But conversely, I certainly work with plenty of people that are single. They don't have any children and they work a normal 9-to-5 job, low stress, and they have all the time to focus on doing a diet. And helping improve their health outcomes. And it makes it a lot easier. Even though your body composition might be the same, their subjective experience of that diet might be very different. So it is always going to be subjective to the individual. So whilst on theory, I would say right now you're probably on the cusp of it starting to become uncomfortable. You could still technically go down to as low as 1170. But your experiences, if you're already having difficulty with compliance, probably would suggest to me that maybe switching gears for a bit, focusing back on, building up your metabolic rate through increases in lean tissue might be the better way to go about it. So thank you so much for the question. Coming down to another question, I got lots of people talking about this is Chicago deep dish pizza from last week's check-in. You got no idea how many regrets I had finishing the slices of pizza that were delivered to my house. I was so hungry at that point because we waited until very late in the evening to order dinner. And I'm like, pizza comes quick, we'll be fine. But then it was like 11 o'clock when it finally did come and they were thin crust pizzas. I was like, oh no, I could have made pizza better than that. Anyway, it looks like everybody is upset for me having to have not a Chicago style pizza. But okay, more questions. Where are we going? How much does footwear matter when training legs and glutes? And is it worth switching to a flat shoe for those workouts? Thank you. So Alison, yes, it is important for quite a few different exercises. I think now you will see me, I don't want to start off by being a hypocrite because if you look at some of my training videos, I've just got a regular tennis shoe with a nice spongy old sole. They look great, the stylish, they match my outfit, that's why I choose them. But is it the best shoe for like lifting and particularly lifting heavy? My response would be no, I'm not wearing the right shoe. But the type of shoe that you would want to have to help optimize your strength, and particularly with exercises that are spinal loading, such as a deadlift or a squat or anything kind of heavy like that, you want to have a flat sole shoe to help maintain your balance, to help maintain proper form, to help with support and stability. They're all really important in helping maximize your strength and reducing the risk of injury. So I would say yes, a flat soled shoe would be better. However, there are going to be exercises that they are less necessary for. So again, I'm trying to put myself in the position of, others and also the thoughts that I have when I go to the gym. Sometimes like, oh, I bought new shoes, I want them to match my outfit, as silly as that is. So if I was going in to do an upper body training session where I might have like seated presses or just standing lateral raises and exercises that don't necessarily require a whole lot of additional stability and, firm foot placement and toe splay, then I am much more comfortable just throwing on my tennis shoe. And I will also say, as I have advanced in my own lifting career, I have good form for all of my exercises. I know how to deadlift with great technique. I know how to deadlift and squat with good technique. And as a result, I don't necessarily feel like I'm compromising myself in terms of an injury. So, if I wore my tennis shoe, or at the moment I wear how can I not know this? A Nike something. I'm going to have to put the shoe up later. I'll come back to it. But anyway, that's got a massive heel and a massive spongy toe. It makes it way more difficult. I can acknowledge that 100%. If I do a lunge or a Smith machine squat, or I'm doing an RDL or a deadlift on the Smith machine, because it tends to be what I'm using at the moment, it definitely creates some instability. So I am not as strong as if I were to go in and wear my flat Converse or to wear a powerlifting shoe. So I'm okay and comfortable doing that because I know how to load my weights correctly. I can tell whether my form is good. I can correct my form. The only time where I might not be able to do that is if I'm really fatigued. And in those cases, I'm usually extra cautious with what I've got loaded up on the bar. So to answer your question, I do think it would be a good idea to switch over to a flat shoe, particularly when you are doing squats and probably lunges or some iteration of a deadlift, RDL or regular conventional or sumo deadlift. So hopefully that answers that one. Okay, so the next question is, hi Holly, could you comment on the differences between the bikini federations and what is the fairest? Is there one where they prefer a look over the other for bikini? For example, no hamstring tie-ins or anything like that? Thank you. I think, that's obviously there is a specific set of judging criteria and you have to meet those judging criteria. One of the criticisms I think of the WBFF was that their judging criteria was very vague and it was very annoying when the goalposts kept moving. And recently I believe they've made some adjustments to how they judge the shows so that it's fair, there's no bias, etc. But with the IFBB, NPC, it is very strict categories. There's a lot of technicality, and it's fair as fair. Like they have very specific things that they're looking for, and you have to show up and do exactly that. So I think they're all fair, based on the individual federations' rules and regulations. None of them. So in terms of bikini and hamstring tie-ins, you would ask specifically. I think the bikini and the WBFF would be the one that is least lean, less requirement for a low body fat percentage. So the bikini girls, like I said, they look more like they've just been plucked off the beach. They don't necessarily have striations anywhere. They don't need to have visible glute hamstring tie-ins. They can have more body fat. It is a lot softer look. It is a lot more feminine, in my opinion. So I guess if you're asking which one allows or would like to see that style of physique, then it would be the WBFF bikini. Okay, so coming down to my next question, should you feel quite hungry in a small calorie deficit? I have quite a sedentary job, but I do train 4 or 5 times per week. I lift 2 or 3 times a week with 2 high intensity interval training sessions. I have a 2.5-year-old, so evenings and weekends I'm quite active and chasing her around, so probably average around 12 to 15,000 steps per week. I weigh 152 pounds, I'm 5'6", and based on calculators, I should be eating around 1,800 calories for a 500 calorie deficit per day. But some days I'm so hungry, and even with eating lots of protein, I find myself going over that goal. And then someone else has actually said, same, my hunger is always like this too. I can never relate to people who say they don't notice a deficit at first. I tend to think that this has to do with how long I've been trying to lose that last bit of weight. I do think the first time dieters or those who haven't overdone it quite as much might not be as hungry at first. So it's a really interesting thing to consider. So I first want to approach your question with the standardized equation that you have used to calculate your predicted maintenance calories. So they are exactly that. It is a calculation that is anticipated on predicting your true physiological needs. It doesn't mean that it is exactly what your true maintenance calories are. So just because it predicts your maintenance calories at 2,300 and thus a 500 calorie deficit would be sufficient for you to lose, I don't know, let's say half of a pound a week or a pound a week. It would be somewhere between that actually based on what we just calculated. It doesn't necessarily mean that that is accurate for you as an individual. I tend to encourage people to just track their macros. So you don't have to have a specific goal, but track what you eat for 2 weeks and do it very accurately. See what your average calorie intake is. See what your average macros for protein, carbs, and fats have been. And then is your weight stable over that course of that time frame? Then you have a better idea about what your true maintenance calories are, and then you can make those calculations from there. So one of the reasons that you might be having a hard time continuing to achieve that last bit of body fat loss might be because you're not actually applying the degree of caloric restriction that you would need to see additional fat loss. So that's one of my points that I first want to make. The other thing that you talked about was you're training 5 times a week, of which 3 are lifting and 2 are high intensity interval training. That is a good amount of exercise, and I love that you've got a bit of diversity there between resistance training and HIIT. However, again, if we want to continue to lose body fat, there is going to be an inevitable amount of deficit created, and sometimes we have to do more. It's frustrating. You've just heard me talk about the fact that this week I need to increase my HIIT cardio to 900 calories for the week. And I need to increase my overall energy expenditure through walking and through resistance training to ensure I lose the weight. And I've had to make an adjustment to my calories. So these are not things that I necessarily want to do. I might like to prefer doing other things with my time. At the moment, it's my goal, so I'm cool with that. But that's the reality. So for you, I think the main question that you had asked here was hunger. Is it normal to experience such hunger? On the contrary to what I've just said, your requirements may actually be much higher. Again, I see this all the time. Some people's calories, maintenance calories are low based on predictive equations. Some people's are really high. So you taking your calories down to 1800 based on a predictive equation might actually be much, much more than a 500 calorie deficit truly for you. And thus the experiences that you are having, the symptoms are profound. So that's also a very real possibility. But I will say, when we take any kind of calorie cut, there are usually a number of physiological and psychological changes. The hormone changes are the first, and those hormones specifically in reference to our appetite, so leptin and ghrelin, they move in a direction that is unfavorable for hunger. So I do think it's normal initially when we take a big drop in calories that they're going to know about it and they're going to signal to our brains that we should probably eat. It is usually after, say, a week or two of hitting those same targets that the baroreceptors inside of our stomach that are kind of sensitive to stretch, they adapt in ways. So the food now that you're consuming, that volume, it kind of feels normal. It's no longer screaming at you to eat. So we start to adapt to that lower caloric environment. But it also could have something to do with your sleep. I don't know, with a busy a toddler 2.5 years old, I know if they're getting up, constantly throughout the night, and you're getting lots of sleep disruptions and broken sleep, those things would also have an impact on your ghrelin and leptin, direct effect on your hunger. So those sleep disruptions will make it seem subjectively more difficult. It will make it harder to adhere to those calories because you're getting stronger signaling to eat. And then also the macronutrient balance. So protein, carb, fat, what ratios are you consuming? So it sounds like you're eating a lot of protein, which is good, but sometimes we can overdo protein. Now, yes, protein is very satiating, and it might help with fullness. But if we are compromising our carbohydrate intake too much, to the point where that then starts to have a negative consequence on fiber, and we're starting to see, less food choices that are highly palatable, we can have 2 different effects here. That might impact your satiety from a hunger and fullness perspective. So if you're not allowing yourself to eat enough carbohydrate and that's influencing your fiber, you might not be getting enough physical food volume to signal fullness. So that could be one thing. But also if you're overdoing protein and sitting on the upper end of your protein requirements, and that's coming at the expense of carbohydrate, it also might be sacrificing the pleasurable foods that you get to eat, the carbohydrate containing foods. And thus up here, your satisfaction is very low. You feel very deprived. And now you are thinking about food more. You've got more thoughts of food. You've got more food focus. Thus, you want to eat more. Even if there is no real physiological need at the time. It's just the thinking about food due to deprivation that can contribute to feelings of, hunger. Feelings of hunger. Stress is another one that's really important. So depending on what you've got going on in your lifestyle, different circumstances tend to lend themselves either favorably or poorly to your capacity to adhere to a diet. So busy, stressful work environment, not going to be as conducive to, being able to adhere to calories and low calories as somebody that doesn't have that same kind of stress, particularly if you've had any kind of instance or a history of emotional eating. So it could be many things. I would say usually, like when I first start dieting after many months of not, the initial 2 weeks are really tough, but you get used to it. There's that adaptation. It's the body just kind of goes, oh, okay, all right. And the stomach kind of starts to get used to that smaller food volume or lesser food volume. Okay, the last question I think is about reverse dieting. So can you help me? I am doing a strict keto diet and I feel very weak at the moment. Maybe I need carbs, but I fear about gaining weight. I'm 58 and my weight is 50 kilos for 160 centimeters. Thank you. Okay, so first things first, I will say there are so many different dietary approaches that you can follow that will allow you to achieve better health outcomes. I know many people choose to move their bodies and exercise and diet for aesthetic reasons, but there are also other reasons and other motivators. So a lot of people, at least those that we work with, it's medically necessary to reduce their body fat to help improve their biomarkers, to reduce their burden of disease. They are currently suffering from multiple different diseases. And we are trying to reverse that for them or rectify it. There are so many different approaches to helping with fat loss. So ketogenic diet is one of probably 15 I can think of that would allow you to achieve a similar outcome. So if you are not enjoying the ketogenic diet from the perspective that you do feel very weak, and that makes sense to me, particularly if you are performing exercises that are highly glycolytic, that require carbohydrate. There are different types of exercise that you can do, more endurance-based, that are more aerobic in nature, and they are not reliant upon the availability of carbohydrate. So that being said, if you enjoy carbohydrates, if you like carbohydrate-containing foods, and we already know it will probably allow you to feel better training. Now, I will say there are plenty of people who do ketogenic diets that have been able to adapt through consistent, behavioral practices doing a keto diet, that they no longer feel some of those symptoms, but they're also eating in a caloric, environment that is maintaining their body composition. It's when we enter into a deficit that I think we start to see those symptoms enhanced or perhaps worsened. Perhaps it's not as ideal from a symptom perspective to do a ketogenic diet during a fat loss phase if you're going to be doing highly anaerobic glycolytic type exercise. So I just want to give you the assurance and the comfort that you can include carbs and not gain weight. I follow a balanced diet. I have about 50-40 or 60-40, split between carbs and fats, which favors carbohydrate. What is most important is adherence to your calorie goal, and you can then split those calories any way you like between the remaining calories from carbohydrates and fats once you've taken care of protein. So, I think one of the things that people often will see when they do start a ketogenic diet, and that's motivating and maybe unfairly incentivizes them to keep doing this diet because they saw such great results in the beginning, is that when you go from eating a high carbohydrate containing diet, you have nice full muscle glycogen stores. You also have a nice full liver availability of carbohydrate as well. So when we switch over to a ketogenic diet where carbohydrates are extremely low, we see a pretty big decrease initially in your muscle glycogen stores. So, and again, depending on your muscle mass, that absolute number, that amount of weight loss that you see can vary quite a bit depending on the person. So, if you are carrying more body fat than is healthy, and you've also got a lot of muscle mass, which is not an uncommon thing to see, it is understandable that when we switch over to a ketogenic diet, we see this massive drop in glycogen stores because there's no longer a need for glycogen storage. You're not eating any carbohydrate anymore. And then with every gram of carbohydrate that is lost or that is used up in this process, there's also a good 2 to 3 mils of water that is lost with it because that is stored with the carbohydrate inside the muscle. So we tend to see like this big overinflated reduction in body weight in the initial weeks of a ketogenic diet. And then what actually fuels the continuation of fat loss isn't the magical ketogenic diet. It's just that therefore, now you're just eating an appropriate amount of calories from fats and proteins and very low carb that are keeping you in an energy deficit. So I could very well do the same thing. If I'm keeping my calories and keeping those in a deficit for me, I can have any combination of macronutrients, provided I don't exceed that calorie target. Because remember, 1 gram of carbohydrate has 4 calories, 1 gram of protein has 4 calories, 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So, we can eat any combination of foods, but it's the total calorie amount that's really going to dictate whether or not we are in a deficit or not. So I hope that helps. I would encourage you to reach out to our coaching team. We would love to help you. We help people with all kinds of dietary approaches, and we also help people without, any dietary body change goal at all. And that may seem contradictory, but it's not like we can take somebody from, having this goal for their lifetime to get to a certain body weight. All of a sudden we can't just change their opinion and go, oh, well, you actually don't need to lose weight to be healthy. Let's work on your mind. Like, obviously that's something that you can very well do, but you can't necessarily go from A to Z, overnight. There needs to be a, transition period where we start to let go of the, the behaviors of dieting, and instead focus on just moving our bodies for health, eating for health. But we start to change the narrative and the belief system up here that allows somebody to feel good about themselves and to be happy in the exact same body. But again, it depends on the individual. Are we doing a diet phase for health reasons? Maybe there's a medically necessary reason to do that. So again, context is always important in these discussions. So I think that is everything in terms of questions for this week. I do want to quickly point out where you can find all of our free resources and different materials on our website. If you head on over to Be a Body, you can see here on the screen at the very top on the landing page, you can grab a copy of our free workouts. Depending on which page you click on up here, there is always a free something or other available to you. So if we go over to resources, you can find all of those freebies. So at the top here, you can grab a glutes and shoulders workout. You can download my very progress tracker that I talk about in my check-ins. You can also get the first couple of chapters free of my recent book publication, The Complete Exercise Guide to Muscle Hypertrophy. You can also download Miss Bikini Olympia Part 1, which is my present training program. It's not in the app, but it is on an Excel sheet. And then we've got latest articles, training blogs, a host of different things. So please go and check out all of those free resources. You can see we've got a combination of myself and our coaches providing some of that content. And then coaching, one-on-one coaching. Let's go and take a look at that. We do have a couple of brand new coaches, Dr. Gabrielle Fondero and Caitlin Duncan. Each of the ladies have a different specialty, although there's a lot of crossover, I believe, in the work that both girls do, although their backgrounds are quite different. So Caitlin is a registered dietitian, and Gabrielle Fondero holds a PhD and has an interest in lots of different things at the moment, but she specifically works on non-calorie tracking approaches to obtaining better health and a more weight neutral approach. So she and I have had many conversations in terms of how we can help our clients achieve and feel better in themselves, but without making any changes to their body composition per se. So that is our coaching team, and more importantly, we have a challenge running at the moment, which is your Love Yourself Fit. So it is about to kick off. We need you to register by July 3, and the actual challenge begins July 9. So you can come over here and take a look at the different levels of this program. We have a DIY version, and we have a one-on-one coaching version of this challenge. So there's the more affordable DIY process, which has video tutorials, recipe guides, educational books, all the things, or you can achieve all of that, plus you do weekly check-ins with our coaching team, and you'd get all of the support that you would usually receive in working with us one-on-one. So go and take a look at the Love Yourself Fit program. We are very excited to be kicking that off. You can register right here on the website, or you can inquire with a coach. And I think that's probably about all, guys. So until next week, I hope that you have a fantastic week ahead. And I look forward to seeing you at my next update.